Timing. On today's program, Kevin Shaw of Mind Your Own Business is here in a while to talk to us about online privacy and security. Also, the gym can be an intimidating and inaccessible environment, but Jenny Bovart believes they can also be a great place to reach your goals and find community. Woo, we got a lot of heavy lifting today, so let's do it.
This is Kelly and Company.
Ramya Muthan joining me on the program today, and it's the middle of the
Hello.
week. How are you?
Middle of the week. Yeah, I'm doing like it is middle of the week. Kind of lost track of time 'cause I'm really looking forward to the end of December. And right before the show started, Jordan, who is teching today, said 10 seconds to air, and I started doing the countdown, and I could imagine the ball drop, the
Oh,
whole
oh man,
thing,
you're
New
even
Year's
thinking to
Eve.
the new year already.
I
Like
know what's
bypass
happening.
Christmas.
What's
We
happening.
away it goes.
Yep.
Already to 10, 9, 8.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you ever wonder
Yeah.
when you were doing your little timing there, your countdown, are you in sync
Which I
with
was
Jordan's
off.
clock? Right? You're probably saying 8 when it's actually 7.
Yeah, and I'm totally not. I've never been good at that kind of stuff. Have you gotten your Mississippis right?
Oh
Like, are
yeah.
you accurate with the seconds and the
I think
counting?
so, but
Oh.
I think I'm accurate in my head too with it, just where if someone says 10 seconds,
Mm. No, not me. No, whenever
wow.
we had to do like 15-second promos, 30-second promos, because for broadcast purposes, you got to be, it's an exact 30, an exact 15, right? For the breaks, I'm always writing too much script for you. You remember those days? I would write a
Well,
promo for you, and you're like,
here's a
Rob,
question for you.
what's
Do
a
you
minute?
actually read it afterward
Yeah,
out loud?
I really think that I'm getting in the 15 or the 30. Like, I think I'm as close to it as possible. And you would have to speed up your speech like double to get the stuff in.
Um,
I'm like, what am I doing
Sometimes
wrong?
it's difficult words. Like just a word that for
True.
whatever
Yes.
reason
Yeah.
to say it without you mangling the word, you have to take a little more time or else you're like slurring the word, destroying it, or people
Hmm.
what the heck did he just say?
Yeah.
Sometimes it's the length of the line, but a lot of time people write these things and they do it without then sitting back and reading it out loud. Hi, I'm Kelly MacDonald from Kelly and Company. They'll sit there and hi, I'm Kelly MacDonald
I
from Kelly and
mean,
Company.
okay, fine. To be fair, I didn't read it out loud every single time. I'm assuming voiceover reading it in my ear is a close enough
Oh, good heavens,
comparison
no
to.
way.
Oh, oh, I don't have
That's
it
why
as
when you
fast
look
as
at
you
it
have jaws.
yeah, but you look at voiceover, whether you have it at 70 words a minute,
Hmm.
you know, it may in your ear, it's well, or 70 words, I don't know, 70 words a minute, it
Yeah, I don't know
really
if it's
isn't.
yeah, speaking rate at 70, the same as 70 words per minute. That doesn't sound right. Anyways,
If you says 70
yes.
words a minute, I don't know. I don't know if you can read that with feeling because I'm saying, "I'm Kelly MacDonald," pause, "from Kelly&
Pause.
and Company." There's those
Hmm.
little moments that suck up airtime.
Voiceover doesn't do that, but I mean, it does, but like pause it,
Well, we
commas
don't
and
want it
such.
to really, right? Unless you're reading a book, you're more what's on this page. Just like a human
Yeah,
eye scanning over it isn't interested in pausing or the period. Oh yeah, okay. Kevin Shaw's
true.
on the program. Okay, Jenny Bovart's a little later on. Francis is coming on. Okay, they're not. They're reading it just like that. A scan versus a hi
Hmm.
everyone. Today on the program. Already, he's sucking up time.
And it also like sometimes we don't pick up on the nuances. But for example,
Yeah.
you say 1-866-509-4545, but as voiceover is reading it to me, it's going 1-866-509-4545. So already it's eating up a whole bunch of syllables that we didn't account for.
And you have to fix it so it doesn't or
Yeah.
VS. Later on, you've got VS
Oh,
in the script
versus.
when I'm teeing up
Right.
tomorrow, whereas I know I have to change that to verses. So if that was a promo but I know you wouldn't throw that into a promo because a person would get up to
Nah.
VS. I think the dates are the hardest, because
Oh, does
you
yours
need to
throw
say
dates?
2024 as opposed to 2024.
Hmm. Yeah, is it doing 2024 for me? Let's see. Oh yeah,
Mine
you're
does.
right. It's definitely 2024. You know, it's wild how much we compensate for
Yep.
unconsciously without even thinking about it. Like, do you go in and change
Jenny,
the dates to 2024?
no, my head will do that one. I'm okay with that. Jenny Bovart, I'm okay with Bovart instead of Bovart.
Oh.
right? Because
Oh,
my screen
yeah.
reader in my ear mispronounces her name, or
Yep.
maybe Jenny will come on here and say, "What is Bofford County?" No. Somebody because I've had that happen too, where this thing's butchering this person's name, and they
Like
tell
Chrissy
no, that's how my
Teigen
name's
coming
spelled.
out, like, 20
Yeah.
years after being famous and being like, "It's Teigen, not Tegan, guys."
Yeah,
Dude, dude.
and we've done it enough times where we've mispronounced a place and people are kind to us. They just don't wanna say,
Yeah.
"Dummies, it's actually this." What like,
Yeah,
how
yeah.
could you? You've got YouTube to fall back on. Yeah, everything on YouTube is so accurate. Folks,
Mm.
speaking of, email us at kellyco@ami.ca and call us at 1-866-509-4545. I was gonna try to mess around with it, but I've written this so it doesn't do that. 1-866-509-4545. Hey, remember, leave us a message. Maybe we can put it on the show. If you have some things to say, you agree or disagree with stuff, or just want to say things you like about the show, we always would love to hear from you. So give us a call or certainly drop us an email.
Jaws versus voiceover. I'm sure people have opinions. I think
Oh
voiceover
yeah.
does way better by default than Jaws, but you know.
I think it's just totally different. Like to me, they're in
Eh,
different ballparks even.
that's what you say when you're losing. Anyways,
Well, no. No, no, Jaws was meant to be, how can I put it? Something accessible financially for everyone. It's not supposed to be,
supposed to be cheap.
voice it's supposed but what it can do with all the softwares and stuff is where the money's invested. I'm
Hmm.
not saying voiceover isn't. I'm just
Yeah,
saying
we're gonna have to
at
get a
the time
tech
of
guy's opinion
creation
on that one. All I'm saying is my voiceover reads scripts better than your Jaws does by default.
I don't know about
Oh, but when I say
that,
voiceover,
but
I gotta be
I'd have to
specific.
look.
Alex, the male voice, does a good job. Not even Samantha does
Alex?
as good of a job.
Well, no,
Yes, yeah.
Alex is the best. Sounds the
Alex
nicest
is
out of
the
everyone.
best.
Yeah. That's why I have them on
Anyways,
my phone. Excuse me.
yep,
It's
me
like
too.
I'm new here.
Me too. So, is there enough talking about the cold ever? No. Obviously, if you're from Toronto, you're chilly all the time, even if it's +6 weather. And so let's keep talking about the cold because it is. And along with the cold, and this is especially true for me personally, is cold fingers and toes. My extremities get so cold. Like sometimes I just can't
Yeah,
warm up, period.
because
So
Toronto is barely cold, it's just damp and annoying.
it's damp, it's cold, it's frosty, it's dark, all the above. But let's talk about the extremities. Frances Wong is back to talk wellness with us, and she's going to discuss the bitter chill that winter brings and how we can defend ourselves from old man winter. There he is. Frances, I'm regularly concerned about my cold hands and feet. So, should we be, or is this kind of a general thing that a lot of us talk about but think that we're the only ones with the coldest hands and feet?
Yes, so I just want to backtrack just a minute and talk
Okay,
about the voiceover and everything because I remember when we were talking about when I did
tell
the
us.
topic on cannabis 101 that it came out as
Hmm.
cannabis 101. So I just wanted to point that out because
There
a
you
lot of
go.
times
Were
we're
you
talking
using
about,
JAWS?
courses and it's, I was
Were you
not.
using voice?
It was I think
Oh,
Kelly
okay.
was
Yeah,
whatever program you guys were using, that's how it came across.
JAWS.
So I was like,
Good.
oh,
yeah, and I think
okay.
voiceover does the same thing. She's just pretending it doesn't
Eh,
because she
let's see.
go check it. Go
Oh yeah,
check it.
you're
Go
right. It
find
is.
it.
It is. It
Yeah,
is.
of
It's
course it
101.
does.
All right, fine.
Yeah.
0, 0.
All right. So
Glad we settled that.
so
Well,
yeah,
it's just like not every
so
class is 101,
Ramya,
right? Even though we'll say, "Yeah, we're gonna do a 101 on," no, no, it could be class 305 and remember, but it's that jargon that
It's
we
just
say
so
always. But yeah,
zero. Yeah.
sorry. Go ahead, Francis. We're
Yep.
digressing.
Enough with the semantics. Carry on.
all right. So I agree with you, Ramya. I tend to run cold, but it's not really much of a concern most of the time. Normally, our body is just trying to keep our core and vital organs warm when it's cold outside. So, cold hands are often a sign that the body is just trying to control its regular body temperature. So, what happens is we know that blood vessels in the extremities, like our fingers and toes, will constrict to prevent heat from the core loss from the core body. So some people do tend to run cold overall, and studies have shown that this could be an inherited trait. Now, the other thing that we should consider is that some people are going to be obviously working in a cold environment. So we're lucky, if we're indoors in an office. But if you're like a meat packer or you're spending time in the freezers, military personnel, mountain climbers, hunters, utility rescue workers. I always feel sorry for the people. It's great in the summer, but then you're doing road work and construction work in the pouring rain and snow. So if you're outside all the time as well, that could be a factor, maybe why you're a little bit colder than normal. And then the other thing to be careful of is that we do want to be mindful that we're not just ignoring the cold. If it is cold, you got to look at the temperature and whether it's frostbite. So we obviously don't want to have
Mm,
tissues freezing. That's can cause permanent damage to blood vessels and other structures. And you can kind of tell when your hands or fingers or toes become white and hard or waxy. So that's just something to
Oof.
keep in mind.
Mm,
And of course, I'm not going to say that it's normal for everyone to be cold all the time. There are some medical causes of cold hands and feet, and things like that include anemia, diabetes, hypothyroidism, Raynaud's syndrome, even vitamin B12 deficiency, smoking, because that causes the heart to constrict and
right.
the blood vessels to constrict, and even nerve damage. If you're nerve damaged, you may not even notice that you're cold when you are. So, these are symptoms. Cold hands and feet are usually one of many symptoms. Not saying like if you have cold hands and feet that you're a diabetic, or if you have cold hands and feet you have hypothyroidism. It's just one of many signs to look out for. Um,
that's what we worry about,
when
though.
do you?
Like the whole,
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
you
So
have any underlying issues slash does this mean dot dot dot?
But I don't think we think of it that way. We think, "Oh, I just get cold easy," or maybe a medication, blood thinners, for example, for some people.
Mm,
"Oh, that must be the blood thinners, how I feel the cold." I always wonder if people exposed to that dampness cold either build up a tolerance or become, as they get older, intolerant of the cold, the rain, because it's almost like it's taken its toll on the body. I always wonder that because a lot of time we think of things that deteriorate our body that, oh well, he stands all the time in his outdoor or indoor job. It's compressing this or doing that for his back. But I do wonder how much cold itself takes a toll over time on you and your tolerance. I'm
that's fair too.
assuming, Francis, it takes its toll on you regardless, on your body if you have to be exposed to damp and cold.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you think of even something as leaving a towel out to dry in the sun, like over time it's
Right.
going to fade, right? It's an accumulation. So in Ayurveda, we look at it as the cycles of, when we start out, when you think about the cycle of spring into summer. So spring, everything is lush, that's like when there's youth and yeah, youth. And then you go into summer and then fall and then winter, right? And winter's sort of like the
Hmm.
end of the cycle. And, you can kind of replicate that with a life cycle too. We start out, young and strong, and then as you age, you start
Mm,
becoming older and drier, and the wind and the weather really can take a toll. So it's, a good
That's
idea to
such a good
protect
point.
ourselves. Um, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So getting
That's such a
back
good
to
point because
when to
as
be
my
concerned.
parents, yeah, sorry, one more thing. Like as my parents get older, like you can really tell there's a drastic difference in their preference for temperatures and such.
yep.
And yeah, we joke around generally be like, yeah, because you're old now, but
Exactly. Yep.
it makes sense though, right? Because your body actually needs different types of regulations as you get older. And like we may not even realize, like me and my brothers, like it's not drying the house, but they're coughing and they need humidifiers because their body's reacting differently to the same type of environment to compensate. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, and again, when you think about it, like if you think about any life cycle, again, through the seasons, you start off even fruits and flowers, they bloom
Mhm.
and then they end up drying out near the end of the life. So it's just
Yeah.
kind of unfortunately the same kind of thing that you can kind of apply to human life, where age we get, muscles dry up a little bit, which is why people get stiffer too, which is also why
Right.
we
Mhm.
want to exercise more and keep things moving. So it's kind of that same along the same lines. You want to keep things fluid and moving so that things are moving smoothly and lubricated.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
getting getting back to, when are we concerned about having cold hands and feet? I think um, one concern is if you are constantly cold, and regardless of the weather. So, if you're inside, you're not working an outdoor job, you're inside in the house and you're always cold, it could be a potential sign of an underlying disease. But you also want to look at other symptoms as well. Like, are your fingers and toes changing color? Are they not looking normal? And do you have any hand and leg pain? And even things like if you're having trouble breathing, obviously at that point, you definitely want to go and see a doctor. So on its own, it's not an issue. But when you look at, a multiple factors, factors, you want to kind of consider, is it really a problem? And if you're concerned, go check it out with your doctor.
Particularly
Mhm.
a change, right? If you've never had this as an issue and all of a sudden you're finding your hands, "Ooh, they get cold," or they're changing that color a little bit, or they seem to be or whatever, definitely. It is interesting because we do swear by, "Oh, getting older," like you're saying, Francis, and in a lot of cases, it is the lack of lubricant. I remember laughing at my father jumping up to crank the heat up, and it's crazy because as you crank things up and your body adjusts, you gotta crank it up more because it adjusts, and it still says, it's not warming up fast enough. But then all of a sudden you're over hot. Is what can we do about the cold hands and feet when we talk about kind of a natural, hey, I'm cold, I'm going out? What are the suggested items that you should think about?
So the best thing that you can do is obviously cover up so you're exposing as little as possible out to the elements. You want to layer because then if you get overheated, then you can always remove a layer. So we're talking things like hats, gloves, socks. You want a warm coat. If you're inside, you can have socks and slippers. And if you're outside and you have a jacket with pockets, use your pockets. Wear gloves, stick your hands in your
Hmm.
pockets on top of that. What
Yeah,
else you
I
can
used
do?
to I used to not,
Exercise.
Francis,
Oh,
buy too
sorry.
much into the layers thing because I found it annoying, right? I didn't want to have a scarf that I could lose or forget somewhere. I didn't want to throw an extra sweater on over a shirt and then a jacket. But I'll tell you something. I've tried to go into that mantra and I so totally noticed the difference versus I'll just wear a big coat and a t-shirt underneath. It's
Mm.
ridiculous. And inside or outside, whether it's a bit of socks on your feet or something, it is tremendous the difference. Rum?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
not good at the layering stuff. I would
I
get myself a
wasn't either, man.
giant
Yep.
parka, and then like I do, my arms do get cold, so I have to wear something, even if it's thin, a full sleeve underneath. But yeah, I
Mhm.
just go, and then it's so annoying if you're a TTC user or like public transit user because the change in temperature is drastic, right? From being inside a bus to then walking around in the cold to then hanging out at the mall, you're just sweating in your parka. So Francis, any thoughts on balancing it out?
Yeah. Layering and then bringing a bag so to carry everything. And if you're afraid of losing
Very
your
fashionable,
gloves
thank you.
or mittens, Kelly, you can get those mittens that they have for kids with the string so that you can kind of hook it through your jacket so you won't lose them.
Oh,
For
yeah.
kids.
I know
I
we
have kids
laugh,
and
but
forgetful
no.
people.
That's right.
Yeah.
I used to always just try putting things if I hung my coat up, put the gloves and everything in my sleeves. Like, I remember that as a kid
Mhm.
because I was especially scarves. Scarves was the thing that makes the best difference in blowing down your neck and everything. They're nice to have, but I
Actually
would
true.
lose them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so other than covering up, what you can do, if you do insist on wearing lighter layers so you don't have to carry so much, you want to move around a lot. So if you're
Mm.
sitting at your desk all day, get up, do a little walk, walk down to the kitchen or whatever, get some movement. Regular exercise also will help to improve your blood circulation overall so that you don't have that tendency to get cool so quickly. And if you're not able to move and you're sitting, heating pads work like magic, right? You can use heating pads. You can also, and I always do this, is if you have cold hands, get like a hot cup of water or tea or coffee and just hang on to it. So that'll keep your
Right.
hands warm for a bit. Rub your hands together. And then also, if you're outdoors and you don't have access to like a stove or anything to heat up a kettle of water,
Mm.
single use warmers, those little packets that you can use, they're kind of one time use, which is not great, but you can put them in your pockets or in your mittens and in your shoes or boots, and that will keep you warm for a little while anyway.
They're like those gel pack things, right? So am I
Yes,
imagining the
yes,
right things? Okay, okay.
Didn't they
Yeah,
used to call them hot shots, or was that the metal thing? There was
no
something years
idea.
ago I remember as a kid that you could turn on and that, and it was like almost like almost like having an
Yeah,
old square cigarette lighter in your hand, and
yeah.
it just would warm up you. Oh, good.
So there is a bit of an underrated debate, which is gloves versus mittens. And all the times that we've had to spend time outdoors to have fun, like skating and skiing and campfires and building igloos and such. I often, when my hands are just out of capacity because I'm frozen, even if I do have mitts or gloves on, I think like, was there a better option for me? So, do you have any thoughts, or is there any actual real evidence out there for gloves versus mittens and which one's better?
Okay, so I'm for Kelly, and this is sort of like pun because I know you love puns. Are you in love with gloves or are you smitten with mittens, Kelly?
I would wear gloves, but I definitely feel, honestly, mittens are warmer.
Yeah, you're right. Both are better than exposing your hands to the cold air, but mittens are generally warmer because the fingers are together. So
Yeah.
Mm.
mittens have a smaller surface area than gloves, so they're warmer, and then there's less radiant heat loss from this. So since the material of gloves will wrap around each finger separately, they have a larger surface area, and then the gloves will lose more heat from the exterior because of that. So mittens are warmer because the fingers are together, as I said, but gloves are a good option when dexterity is needed. So when you're skiing and things like that, if you're, doing a snowball fight, then maybe mittens are an option. But there is also something called a glitten, and that is a
Uh,
combo of mitten and the glove. It's also called finger flap mittens or flapper mittens, and that's kind of the best of both worlds. So this is where you have, and you've probably seen them and you just never knew what they were called. They
mm.
have your fingers are exposed, and then you have a flap that goes on top so you can kind of cover. It's kind of like so that when it's covered, it becomes a
Oh,
full mitten. I mean, and that is perfect for, if you need to like open snacks if you're outside and you can't do it
right.
with your mittens, you can just pop the top off and then just use your fingers, or if you're typing on your phone. um so that is also an option. I'm not sure how um, comfortable they are. Yeah, it's a little bit odd, but it is definitely an invention that's out there, and there's tons of the stuff available like on Etsy
Mm.
and stuff if you're looking to buy. So I think it comes back to just sort of like a function versus form. And I think another thing that we should do and keep in mind is we want to keep our hands and feet moisturized because it's so dry out. So
Mm,
that will also help,
Yeah.
just in general, so that
Yeah.
we're not having the chafing with the, wearing gloves and mittens.
yeah. Is there also the for adults, gloves look just more adultish or more attractive in the sense of, well, you look like you're an adult, leather gloves or these kind of more fashion statement wise, I think is what I'm trying to say, versus mitts. Like you never hear really people going on about, oh, they've got those nice leather. Yeah, I mean, I know there's lots of gloves that are just for show, really, or driving gloves. I think some will refer to them as.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, yeah, you're right. I mean, definitely when I talk about like form versus function, like the look of a glove is way more elegant than a mitten, unless you're like a 2-year-old. But
Yeah.
at that
Mm.
point, you're deciding, do you want to stay warm or do you want to freeze yourself just so that you can look good? So that's a personal choice. I mean,
Yeah.
I always
Pass
go for
on the
function.
letter.
I'd rather be
Yep.
warm. Yeah.
Yeah. Then
Yeah.
frostbite with a fashion.
I mean, don't get me wrong. There's so many cute boots out there that I'd rather wear in the winter than what I currently have. And the
Clumsy, thumpy.
clunkiness.
Yeah.
Yes.
Burn.
Oh, and it's so loud. You know this is not fashionable when you hear me coming.
There's a
Um,
giant coming. No, it's from you.
yeah. But at the end of the day, right? No one's gonna be at home rubbing my feet for me but myself. So I will take the cozy boots. Thank you so
Exactly.
much. Francis, awesome. Appreciate it. And we'll talk back with you in January when it'll still be cold. So we'll compare notes.
Thanks. Have a good
Although,
break.
Thanks,
thank you.
Francis.
Although she is in Vancouver, so I
It's
feel
a bit
like
different. It goes back to
it's a
that damp cold that I
yeah.
was mentioning before, that it could be +1 degree Celsius and still feel worse than -5
Yep.
degrees.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Either
it's
way.
well, okay, so that's the thing I feel about gloves. I know logically and have for years, mittens are warmer, okay? But you get
Yes.
these thoughts in your head about, "Oh, yeah, but I'm not supposed to be running around wearing mitts." And of course, the real logical
Why
question, if
not?
you're skiing, if you're out there, exactly. Why not? There's no law. It's called common sense. Do you wanna
Hmm.
freeze? And I just chuckle because I mean, if you're never doing anything, if you're not that person who does winter stuff, goes out like Rumya and, builds forts, it's funny to
We
picture you
were
guys doing
forced.
that.
It was one of these outdoor education centers, and
Mm.
outdoor time was mandatory. I was like, "Oh, can we get an alternate option where I can stay inside and by the
And
fire?"
can I
And they were
build
like,
a
"No,
fort in here? Like, even if it's
no."
just in my mind? Did you actually build forts? Snow forts?
We built Quincy huts, which are little
Oh,
tiny igloo-like structures, but they're both open on both ends, so it's a bit of a tunnel.
okay. So basically,
Uh,
you could lay there and they just build around you.
yeah, that was part of the exercise is to build around me. And the other thing was they were always accompanied, these Quincy hut buildings, with the making and eating of bannock, roasting bannock by the fire,
Oh
and
yeah,
I
yep,
was
yep.
always down for that. That's the
Bannock is
very
awesome stuff.
delicious bread.
It's
Yes.
really fun when you think about the things you enjoyed as a kid with the snow. But again, hand and glove came with that cold and being protective and or
Hmm.
protected. And that's why I said I remember getting chewed out, taking wear having a scarf going to school and losing it. So for me, it became no, I don't want to
Oh,
do that. I also
yeah, too many
wonder, and
articles of clothing. Yeah.
I'm gonna invite Kevin Shaw in here too on this one. He's joining us on the program. Kevin Shaw from Mind Your Own Business on AMI TV, and we'll be getting into a chat with Kevin in just a second. But Kev, I kind of got to ask, and both of you, did you kind of have that reservation of I don't want to wear too much, I don't want to lose something, I don't want to forget it, and I do wonder, is it more of a blind thing?
I am very good at keeping track of the things that I have. So,
Mhm.
for me growing up, I might occasionally lose something, but I learned all the tricks of, put the gloves in your pocket or wrap them up in your scarf and shove it in your sleeve. Um, I think the thing that upsets me the most over losing my scarf is losing my hat.
Hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I've only
Yeah.
recently started wearing hats and realized I need a lot of hats because I keep leaving them places. It's
Yeah.
strange to wear extra stuff that you have to then figure out how to deal with when you're taking them off and hanging out.
Yep.
Gloves,
Yeah.
See,
hats, and
that
it's
was
like,
my
where does
thing.
it end?
Yeah, I worried a lot about losing stuff. I hated that my parents would get this stuff, and if I lost something, and I
Mm,
hardly did, guys. It's not like I was this chronic loser of thing. It took me once to turn me off of, but the layers thing, now that
hmm.
I've started to be more comfortable with throwing a shirt or a sweater than a jacket and can wear a thinner jacket, and I'm just as comfortable than trying to pile on, if not more so, the winter jacket where maybe the breeze blows up or whatever, and you go, "Oh, good heavens," or
Hmm.
through the zipper. It's just a no-brainer. Like, it really makes that much of a difference from you.
Yeah, it does actually make that much of a difference. When I was a kid, though, you couldn't find me, not a kid even, like as a teenager, maybe even a little later, you couldn't catch me dead with anything on other than my jacket and my hood.
Um,
It was too cool for any of it.
Kev, what do you do with a suit in the wintertime? Do you have an overcoat?
Oh.
What do you
I,
wear?
I
If
specifically, I remember wearing a suit. I went downtown. I went to a clothing store and I said, it was like minus 24 that day. I said, I want a winter jacket that I can wear over the suit.
Mm,
And bought a 3/4 length coat that is basically windproof and like cold proof down to like minus 30.
nice.
And it was like super fancy engineered. I still have the jacket. I don't go anywhere without it in the winter. But yeah, I'm all about the layers. I'm always cold, hands, fingers cold all the time. So, the warmer I can be, the better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a couple of trench coats. If I'm wearing a suit, I can throw on a
Mhm.
trench coat. I have a real nice wool one, and I have one that's kind of more for show. That I can pull over a suit that I feel comfortable. I don't feel like I'm some bulky creature walking around in it. But otherwise, like you, Kev, I have the winter jackets that if I was in that situation and going out. But I just wondered, someone who is in the position of, especially downtown Toronto, lots of people traveling over
Mhm.
on Bay Street. That's got to be the look. Folks, you can follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Kelly and Co. AMI. Both Kelly and Co. AMI, please. Kevin is the host, as I mentioned, of Mind Your Own Business on AMI TV, an entrepreneur and a digital specialist. Let's talk a little bit about online security today, Kev. Um, Talk to us a little bit about what you are very particular about when it comes to protecting your digital security.
Well, let me ask you guys. Now that we're almost in the year 2025, we're quarter of a century into the new millennium. What
Whew.
do you guys do to protect your online privacy when you are maybe signing up for a store, or you like click on an ad. Is there anything that you guys do that you like
Mm.
to do to protect your privacy?
First things first, I
AMI.
don't click on ads.
Yeah.
Ah, okay.
Never click
Yep.
on ads.
Me
Okay.
too. Never do that. Yep.
All right. Yep. I
Um,
will look at an ad, and then if I'm interested, I'd go and search it up separately. But I don't know where this fear came from, but I'm scared that
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to get a virus. Does that sound
Right.
very old?
um,
I
And
can't.
you guys are both on PCs, I assume.
I'm on the Mac. So yeah,
yeah,
there are a
I
lot
You're
of
on a
am.
like
Mac. Okay.
ad blocker ways of doing this and
Hmm.
Right, right, right.
avoiding it altogether. Hmm.
But if you had to fill in, a form or a survey or
Yeah.
something, is there anything that you do that you're particular about in terms of what you do to protect your privacy?
I'm pretty lazy, so I would really have to trust the service source, whatever, as much as possible. And I know there's only so much. I think passwords, when it comes to things like that now, I've become
Hmm.
more in love with a convention, using a particular
Yep.
convention that is long enough that I'm comfortable enough, so that because I was always be afraid of, well, man, this thing's so long. I'm gonna mess it up or I'm gonna forget it. So now I've
Sure.
tried to have a convention that I am comfortable that whether I have to change it or that I could use it if I wanted on different ones with just a little bit of a change that I would recognize or remember.
Well, let me flip it around here, because we always think of privacy. Lots of people come on, they'll talk about privacy and security from the perspective of the consumer. How do you protect your data? But what if you're a business owner and you're the
Mm,
one that's actually collecting that data? What do you do to protect that? So you could have, maybe somebody comes in and fills in a survey. You've got a database of customers. You've got, phone numbers, email addresses. You're dealing with credit card information, maybe through a third party. It's really a good idea every year to go through a privacy and security audit as a business owner. So maybe you've got an email list, as an example. Is the password that protects that email list secure? Is that something that you change regularly? Or could somebody, get onto your MailChimp account and spam all of your customers, or take their email addresses? So these are things that business owners should think about. Usually things tend to slow down over the holidays unless you're in retail, or there's a lull in January after everyone's bought stuff for Christmas. So maybe think of a little bit about doing that privacy audit around this time of the year. Look at your databases. Do you have email addresses? Do you have phone numbers? Do you have what they call PII, or personally identifiable information for customers, addresses, postal codes, that kind of thing?
Mm.
And maybe talk to your team or talk to the people that provide these services. Go in, do a password change, track all that stuff, make sure that it's secure, so that you're actually protecting your customer data.
I think like there's the ownership side of business, right? Where you're thinking about privacy and security for the companies that you're running and the information as well as your employees. And I don't know, maybe even like big organizations are thinking about protecting their secrets and their secret
right.
Hmm.
sauce. But then, like as employees of companies, there's a lot to think about as well, right? Especially when you're
Oh
going
yeah.
on about the privacy
Customers, right?
part of
Yeah.
things.
Yeah, and
Just
the value.
assume
Hmm.
everything
Yeah.
is out there, period.
Well, I work for a bank, and I know that banks have very specific rules about the platforms that you can use and the things that you can't use. And, I think it's a good idea, if you are running a company, to maybe have that discussion with your team and say, you know what, we don't use Zoom. We don't use,
Mm-hmm.
Skype. We
Mm-hmm.
only use, Microsoft Teams. We only use, HTTPS websites because it's secure. And if you're caught, I remember there was a case not too long ago, actually, where there was a bank that, the employees were talking about, it was like investments or something. and they
Mm-hmm.
decided to use one of the popular messaging services, and some of that data got leaked, and they got in trouble, and that particular bank got fined because they didn't have control over that channel. And so if it's something where you are dealing with customer information, you say, look, these are the only channels that I'm going to deal with. Don't talk about, company information or company policies or company secrets on anything other than the channels that we tell you that are approved.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Yeah, and
if
even
anything gets
those,
funny, then you have that
right?
ability to know, hey, something might have happened with Teams or something's going on, but you
Exactly.
know that's what you've nailed it down, not 4 or 5 potential. Go ahead, Rem.
Well, the big thing for me is like even assuming there are a lot of fun chats to be had with your coworkers and within your own team dynamics at
Mm-hmm.
work too, right? Like we're all you can have very friendly conversations with people, but sometimes you can slip and think that that stuff is not being monitored or can't be monitored at some point either. Like the whole point is if you're at work, and that doesn't necessarily mean in the office anymore, that could just mean completely virtual interactions and relationships, that stuff is still not private. Like
Right.
what happens at work or on these work platforms are not private, and
And
I
that's their
think that
platform.
sometimes we forget it. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Yep.
your
People
employer's
do.
Yeah.
platform, not yours.
Yep.
I
It's
worked
not a
for an
private Teams chat.
organization. Yeah, I worked for an organization that said even though your inbox might be empty, we save everything. And
Yeah,
so the
see.
IT
Yeah.
department, like they know from all the chats that you have, they know every
Mm-hmm.
email that you've sent, they know every email you've received.
Mm-hmm.
They don't delete anything, and that's one way for them to mitigate risk.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also to think about in terms of, hey, this is a workplace. I'm gonna, make sure I mind my p's and q's, and
Yeah.
and uh, make sure that I'm taking this job professionally and taking this job seriously, and not goofing off on the job.
Right. Right.
Talking,
And even
wrestling or
cynically
something.
speaking, that anything
Well,
you say can and will be used against you, right? Like
Well,
could
and
be.
nobody's
Exactly.
sitting there through your company generally hired just to go comb through all of that because it is our right. But it certainly makes you stop and say if any crazy stuff, a virus or whatever gets into the system, somebody's going
Sure.
to be combing through everything, and they
Going
might
through
come
it.
across
Yep.
something that, what kind of
Yep.
conversation you having with this, Mr. X or whatever?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Gee, glad you said Mr. X and not
And
Mr. F. Oof.
No, no, no. I know better than that. Him and I make sure
one
they're
one thing
encrypted.
that Right. Well, one thing that comes up that not a lot of people talk about is what's called social engineering,
Right.
where
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I might send, I don't know, you guys remember, you're probably old enough to remember those email chains that you'd get, and it's like, here's 20 questions, get to know me, fill in the answers, send it on to like 10 friends, and they fill it in,
Yes.
Yes.
right? So
Yep.
some of this stuff pops up on Facebook, or you'll get a link, and it's like, which Spice Girl are you, or whatever. And they'll ask some
And pass
questions, and
on.
they'll say, yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of these answers now can be mined with things like AI and other tools to basically guess at your password and guess at your secret questions. So if you go to log into a website, I forgot my password. Okay, what was the name of your first grade teacher? What was the name of the city where you were born? What city did you meet your spouse in? And these answers are easy enough to find if people know where to look, and you're the kind of person who fills in these surveys. And people can go in and like take over an account, or hijack an email service or something that you're using to do something malicious with your information. So just be wary of that if you're running a company and you've got employees that are looking at filling in BuzzFeed quizzes and
Yeah.
this kind of thing on the job.
Can't say as I'm sorry to see these techniques gone away, and I mean some of the others can be annoying, but no matter what, going back to those days, those were even far more annoying. The things you have to do now that are hopefully more secure, more encrypted, seem easier. Kev, what other tools should we think about using?
Well, I love password managers. I think password managers are great. If you've got a Mac, they're built in. There are tools like 1Password to help you come up with complex passwords. There are VPNs, so virtual private networks. It basically masks your IP address that you get from your internet provider. So if you're with Bell or Rogers, you can basically get online, and then somebody can basically trace your IP address back to your particular house, your particular router that's in your home, in your closet, in your basement. And so what VPNs do is they mask that, and you basically go through another network to get onto the internet, and it's completely invisible to you. But if a hacker is looking for your IP address, they don't find that. They basically just see an IP address that doesn't belong to you at all. So that's a really good tool. And, I think the biggest tool that you can use is just common sense. If something sounds too good to be true, don't click on it.
Yeah, and again, I get annoyed at the security things. Work says, "Hey, you got to do these security testing," but I must admit, some of the things you've talked about, the malware, everything, they pop up in your head, and I know it's because, hey, if something goes wrong, Kelly, we link it back to you. We can tell you, well, yeah, but you read that, you should
Well,
have known better, or Kelly, you didn't read it, you should have known better because you're supposed to cover that course. Either way, I'm like, oh, yes, I guess it falls on me. And the companies need to at least offer that to give you that protection, as annoying as that stuff can be.
Yeah.
well, I do think that a lot of the time still, we're reactive more than we are proactive, right? Whether we're
For
talking
sure.
big companies or
100%.
individuals. Yeah. So until something
Yeah.
happens, you might not have any reason to feel like you need to be more secure or think about privacy on a regular basis. But there are tools out there, like you're saying, Kev. For example, Apple does a hide my email option
Yep.
where you don't have to actually put out
Yeah,
your
I use that all the
proper.
time.
Me too. And it saves you the hassle of putting out your personal email or checking your personal inbox. It actually curates in a way as well. So it's easier for you to keep track of things. But that, along with the password manager, is a huge step in the right direction. But you may not even think, like, what the benefits of this is what, or why would I go out of my way to do this? But it's just a quick
Yeah.
setup at the beginning.
Yeah, and I make it a point now to, go through my passwords, once a year, maybe once every
Clean
six
it up.
months, make sure that, I've got stuff that's cleaned up. If I know that my information, maybe I've used a website before where I've had to sign in with an account or something, I'll
Mm-hmm.
go back to that website and make sure, okay, you know what, I haven't used this thing in a year. I'm going to delete my account. Because there's no
Yeah.
point in keeping that
That's right.
How
eBay account or
many
something like
old
that.
accounts are just floating out there
Oh,
in the
you
ether
couldn't even
of
get
things that
into
we
them.
do not, right?
Yeah. And you couldn't even get into them, but they're still somewhere. There's a platform it's on, maybe, and maybe they're not using it anymore, but some
I think I
smarty
have like
goes
Mhm.
5
through and says,
Amazon
"Do, do,
accounts.
do, do, do." Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, and I
Kev,
don't know
5
thanks.
how.
Amazon accounts?
I
Yeah,
know.
no
Good
I
job.
problem.
can't get 3 out of 5 of them. I have no idea when or why they were created, but anyways, thanks for the reminder.
Because you could. That's the whole thing. Thanks, Kev.
That's a good idea.
Thank you.
Best of the season, pal.
We'll talk to you guys soon. Have happy holidays.
Thank you.
Thank
Let's
you.
stay alert and vigilant, folks. Kevin talks business every month with us on the program, and I think that's interesting when you think about all the floating around different passwords, the different
Yes.
things you've used as a password over time, and what you still may have it on and not realize.
Mhm.
Really kind of scary. So I got something I want to bring up here because you want to talk about risky in life, ladies and gentlemen. The world's most dangerous pizza cooked on an active volcano. Tourists in Guatemala risk these kind of eruptions that could happen as they sample this deep dish delight of pizza. Madeline Dury this is from the Sunday Times, by the way. Mario David Garkey serves up on Bacaya, which last erupted in May 2021. This is welcoming you folks to the most dangerous pizzeria in the world, where you can enjoy a slice on one of Guatemala's most active volcanoes. I think eating your food comes with,
Okay.
doesn't matter what you put on it, and you say it might be bravery there. This is where you go to get it and how it's made. So, one thing you get for free, though, I will say, is a side order of toxic gases, scalding lava flows, and falling rocks. They're the potential. This guy has sold everything from ice cream to vegetables, but he never thought a volcano would be the starting point of his culinary success. That's what the chef says as he pulls on his thick, heat-proof gloves, yellow protective goggles to go over the volcanic rock itself with a little help from some wood. The lava and the wood create some hot spots that lend themselves to cooking, and with careful footwork, Ramya, he can stand
Mm-hmm.
safely nearby. He's done this for 5 years as he celebrates his unique business, which draws, of course, as his clientele, tourists that just don't know any damn better. Wow.
I was gonna say, I'm still stuck on toxic rock and lava. I'm like, are
Me
we
too.
heating our pizza up with that?
Yeah,
Okay.
a little ash
Anything for the
to
gram,
carry
though.
away.
Yeah. Yeah. For real.
And the amazing heat, but unfortunately, I'm sure it's, like, really good, but
Mm-hmm.
it better be worth it to make the climb, to get there, to balance yourself so you're not sliding on rocks and that, and,
Oh my.
while you're at it, "Our Father who art in heaven, thank you for the peace, here's the money, keep me safe, and who art in heaven," as you're trying to
Your pizza
rescue your
comes with a
piece and
prayer.
get down the hill. Oh, it has to, has to. Oh, man. Folks, check out our podcast from your platform of choice, and while you're in there, if you would, give us a rating and review. We'd appreciate it. Jenny Bovart is a longtime contributor to AMI. You can catch her in a forthcoming AMI TV series that's headed your way, Pretty Blind. Jenny, welcome back. How are you?
I'm so pleased to be back. Thanks for having me.
Mm.
So, would you try that lava-induced pizza? Would you go up there to
Um,
do it?
I am all for living dangerously and going on adventures, but that
Mm-hmm.
one's not on my list. Not on my list. And I get the
It would,
vibe
Really?
that neither of you would be on board really
yeah.
either.
It would be
Where
my
would you draw the
luck.
line? Like,
Well, I'm more worried about the
it's a
luck of it
volcano's a
exploding.
bit extreme, but is there like
Right.
a one step lower that we would try?
Mm,
You know
Like
what?
okay.
a.
I
Mm.
just listened to a really great podcast episode. I listened to this wonderful series called Against the Odds, and what I like about it is it's like a docu-series. It's like slightly dramatized. It's really well done, really entertaining. And the beauty of it is the people, so at least someone involved in this disaster or wild situation is going to survive because it's called Against
Okay.
the Odds. So I
Right.
recently listened to an episode where they visit a volcano. I believe it was on New Zealand. Is there that sounds right.
Mm. Let's
And
hope.
so the thing is like usually volcanoes they erupt on a somewhat regular schedule.
Yeah.
So if you said, "Hey Jenny, I got these free tickets to go to this volcano and and it's not scheduled to erupt anytime soon," I might go. I might go.
Okay,
And
you'd go see a non-erupting volcano, like while it's not
yeah,
active.
yes,
Okay.
and I would
But
eat
but
pizza
even if she knew the
afterward, but not
prediction
on.
schedule, yeah, yeah. See, that's my thing. My view would be it would probably erupt while I'm there. However, if you said to me, "Well, would you rather go swim with the sharks or something like that off the coast?" No, I'll go to the
Absolutely
volcano.
not.
Yeah, I'll
No,
go to the
Mm.
I have
volcano.
a healthy
Sorry.
fear of the ocean for that reason.
Oh, okay.
Sharks
Yeah,
and we're
Okay.
not welcome there, guys. I mean,
I know. We're not.
but
They're making their point. Yeah.
that said, again, my mind can be changed because I enjoyed a really great episode of I think she's called The Blind Traveler now. It used to be called Planes, Trains, and Canes, Dr. Mona Minkara. And
Mm.
she so beautifully described her experience at scuba diving that I was like,
Yes,
you know
yes.
what? I can maybe get on board with this
Yep.
because with little to no sight, I was like, well, what am I even going to do down there? What am I even going to look at? Hey, Jenny, do you
Yeah.
see that over there? No, probably not.
No.
No.
And it's
Did she
not, I'm
dive
sure.
Did she
Hmm?
dive, like, on a wreck or something? Because that would be the thing I think we could, shall I say, get a grasp of, because at least there's a little more to feel, to do down there if you went down on, like, a sunken ship or something like that in a reasonably controlled, like a lake, like one of the Great
Mm.
Lakes where the most you gotta worry about maybe is, an eel bothering you.
That would entice me even more, the whole sunken ship thing, because I'm a big history buff. I love the whole seafaring sort of lifestyle fantasy. I love that whole side of things. But
Yeah.
for in this episode with Mona Minkara, there was a much more tactile experience than I thought there would have been. She was allowed to like touch and hold things that were safe to touch and hold. She didn't visit a wreck or anything, but I was pretty swayed.
Yeah, I would love it. I would love it if you could not get confused of which way is up or down. Jenny, of course, we're eating up your time here. Let's get into the event session here. Of the intimidating and inaccessible environment that the gym can be. So, what makes a gym or fitness center so scary? How could they become a little more accessible and inviting?
I hope my reputation isn't as a ranter necessarily, but
Why
I
not?
wanna.
Aw.
Oh, well,
Well, we
it can
like
be so
ranting
much.
with you.
It can be
Okay.
fun. So let's get into it. We all know why. I think we all know why the gym, the fitness center can be an intimidating, foreign, unfamiliar environment. Those are words that we use to describe those environments. I think most
Mhm.
folks would feel that way. There's other people there. They're going
Yeah,
to see you and maybe judge you working out in your workout clothes. Oh my god. It's a lot
Mhm.
to consider, right? It's a lot to process. And then working out is not necessarily fun for a lot of people. So just the thought of packing your bag and going through all the motions of getting there and all the steps involved, right? It doesn't necessarily sound like fun. And then you add the part where it might not be accessible. It might straight
right.
up not be something that we can access in a way that is actually useful for us. Is any of this resonating with the two of you?
Always.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've gone to gyms. My biggest concern was always either losing something, not knowing which locker was mine, or getting up to the equipment and walking over, is somebody sitting here? And people not being used to somebody asking that, and they sitting there, why is this guy asking me that? Oh, he's gonna sit on me. No, I'm here.
Those are all very valid fears,
That's
but
yeah.
there are always solutions, and there's always I'm always impressed with human beings and how my perception of these things can evolve. So let me try and change your minds, because I'm getting the sense that neither of you are gym goers, are you?
I've tried. I've
Yeah, I've
definitely
tried.
had trials of gym
Yeah,
times. I've definitely
yeah,
paid for gym memberships and
yeah,
barely ever showed up.
me
I
And
too.
didn't
Oh,
made
want
I've
to
some
showed up a
assume.
excuse
lot.
or another.
Yeah, I've
Yeah.
showed up a lot, and then I
That's
prefer
kind
to
of
have
you.
my own equipment, or, in my building, there's a gym.
I'm like you.
I've
I
made
do
calendar
have.
invitations for myself about going to
See,
the
you're
gym.
you're both trying, you're both making an effort, right? And I commend you for trying and putting yourself out there and signing up,
Thanks,
right? Those are the
Jenny.
first steps. No, truly, those are the first steps.
Mhm.
I really only use the gym for the treadmill. For the past 10 plus years, I like to go to
Mm.
the gym and use the treadmill to run as fast as I can. Pretty much exclusively, that's what I go for. So although I've been going for a long time, I'm pretty comfortable with the environment. It is what I do there is fairly limited. So I like you, I have a little gym in my unfinished basement. That's where I do, my lifting and my strength, functional strength training type stuff. But running outdoors, I can only run as fast as I can see, I like to say. So at the gym, it's a whole sort of liberating experience to go as fast as I can on that treadmill and really challenge myself. So over the last 10 years, it's been a journey, my friends. Okay. It's been a bumpy ride. And I just have had such a positive experience recently that I am telling anyone that will listen about this gym experience. One of the things that I think we overlook when we talk about accessibility often and access is the price. And you mentioned signing
Mhm.
up and paying for the gym membership. Oh my, I cannot imagine my Good Life membership going unused for the amount that
Unused.
I was paying. So
Yep.
Yeah.
that's one of the
Unreal.
things that was one of the catalysts, right, for me to start looking elsewhere for a more affordable gym membership so I can
Yeah.
do my little treadmill workouts.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, I found a Planet Fitness in my
Yes.
area about the same walking distance. I didn't know their reputation really. So I was, as usual, open to trying it out and seeing what happened. So your first visit is free, which is amazing, very helpful. But right from the get-go, from the phone conversation I had with them, I was like, I'm going to cancel my Good Life membership.
Mm.
Right from the first phone conversation where, you make I don't know if a lot of other people do this, but I'll make the phone call and I'll be like, hey, I'm coming in and I am visually impaired. I have low vision and I would really like for someone to give me a tour to show me the important things I need to know around the gym. That seems like something obvious, but at Good Life,
Nope.
I would have felt
Yeah.
like I was imposing. And I
Yeah, they
can't
would
say
do it
that
if you were willing to sign up for a coach and stuff that would take you around, a fitness
Yep.
person, if you
exactly.
were
Yep.
willing to pay the
Yep.
money.
And I will
Exactly.
say I have had really good experiences at certain gyms when I have put myself out there, walked to the front desk and say, "Hey, I'm blind. I'm gonna need this, that, and the other," and kind of given them a list of how my accommodations
Yeah.
would be,
I
which
might
is,
catch my
walk me over
finger
to
in the
this
weight,
place.
so somebody might wanna help me
Wait around
before
for
the
me while I'm
lawsuit.
done. Yeah, no. But that kind of thing. Honestly, though, because I don't feel comfortable going to try to find equipment on my own, especially not free weights. But some of the other like machinery as well is just complicated or touchscreen or whatever the thing may be. And people have been accommodating, but it's not the same as going somewhere where you're going to be invited in and people are understanding of what it is, and not just the people running the show, but everyone else there to have an accommodated experience
Yeah.
or
You
pleasant.
Planet
have
Fitness, I've heard
you
this
have
though, Jenny, too.
yes, yes, and that's exactly what I experienced at Planet Fitness. It was like night and day. It
Yeah.
was
Mhm.
like I walked into Planet Fitness and they had kind of thought of everything.
Yep.
From the
Yep.
time I walked in there, I was like, this space feels very accessible from the way that it was
Mhm.
laid out. It wasn't a busy, intimidating space in terms of how the equipment was organized. There's places to walk where it's nice and clear, it's nice and wide. Things are organized logically. All of the cardio equipment is in one space. All of the strength training equipment is in another space. And you don't need to walk around and explore too much. It's like once they show you where something is, there's a clear path to get there, which I absolutely loved. I literally you mentioned, Ramia, the people at the gym. What blew
Mhm.
me away was not only the staff, like you said, but I thought that they had planted people there to make me wanna sign up. I swear to you,
That's how
the
good it
peop
was.
Wow.
I was like, "This can't be real." I was
It's the
just, like,
social
waiting for the
ingenuity we
next
talked
shoe to
about.
drop. I was like
Wow.
Yeah,
I was like, "Are you
for
kidding me?"
real.
I
I
That
I've
is
know.
never
amazing.
canceled something
No,
I've never canceled anything so quickly in my life.
fantastic. Planet Fitness, and I've heard this. Jenny, thanks for filling us in because
Thanks,
we love
Jenny.
it. Just the ease. We'll
The
talk to you next month.
equipment too. The
Oh,
equipment is
God.
Mhm.
audible, large print, tactile. It's incredible. I can't tell you enough good things.
Lovely.
Fantastic. Jenny Bovart joining us. We'll talk next month. Best of the season, Jenny.
Ho,
We'll
ho,
talk to you
ho.
tomorrow on the program.
See ya.
On the next show, folks, Marcus McCracken and Mike Fair are facing off in a debate of consoles versus mobile gaming. Which do you prefer? And Mary Mamalita is here for the first of two taste tests that we're doing. Tomorrow we're trying out the Tim Hortons Holiday Baileys. So why don't you be back here next time? I'm waving at you. We're gone.
Thanks for tuning in to Kelly and Company. Follow us on all social media and don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for more.